What's up?
Morning.
How's it going?
What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning into this episode, and welcome back if you've been here before. We're diving into an awesome episode today, so let's do this. Welcome back to the Unrecognized podcast. My name is Rishnak, your host, and with me today I have Jake Olson.
Yeah, like you said, name's Jake Olson. I'm living in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Recently out of school. Working on a journalism degree at UW Eau Claire. Kind of changed that path a little bit with COVID. Hard to pay the bills and work at the same time, you know.
Right.
Working as a bartender and a freelance photographer, I realized real quick that all my income was coming from human interaction. Then
Right.
world kind of shut down, put a little damper on that. But yeah, obviously I'm a photographer. I shoot anything that's in front of me. Gone through different trends in my photography career. Right when I started, I wanted to be one of those vibey landscape photographers with the faded blacks and all that stuff. And then I was scrolling through Instagram and realized that everybody else was doing the same exact thing. And I was like, well, that's it's not my style. I don't want to be just another like random Instagram account with faded blacks and blue in the shadows, you know? So I tried to change it up a little bit. Big part of changing it up was actually my format of choice. I'd always been super interested in pursuing film photography. There's always just something really like satisfying me about having a negative in your hand. So I shoot a lot of film photography, a lot of like I said, street style, documentary, social commentary style photography. I have this whole grand plan of just really in capturing Eau Claire and the time that I was living in it.
Sweet. Yeah, that's sweet. Definitely like seeing your profiles and stuff. You definitely can tell that you're deeper into it than a lot of people, say or kind of claim. Like there's a lot of photographers out of there, and it's just a very saturated industry, as you know. And it's cool when you can just see somebody and recognize that they are definitely deeper into it than most. So you're talking about the start. What did it kind of look like when you started? Like how long ago did you really dive into it?
Yeah, it must have been like 3.5, almost 4 years ago. I was doing a lot of like camping. I like to be outdoors. I love spending time outdoors. I bought a like $60 Nikon point and shoot off Amazon and thought I was the next Ansel Adams. And I was running around taking like 6 megapixel grainy ass little like pictures of just random stuff around Eau Claire, and then going home and editing them. And was it like the Lightroom trial period or whatever? Just loving it, you know? Then I realized like that wasn't really going to cut it. So I bought a Canon Rebel T6. From there, I actually started like shooting some more serious stuff. I would actually spend time learning about exposure triangles and stuff like that. Actually making myself a good photographer rather than a kid with a camera. So I went down to Australia, studied abroad with school, and bought a Sony A6000 right before I left. I was working construction and bartending then too. So I had a little bit of cash rolling around. Bought myself an A6000 and then went down and I actually shot like 6 months worth of stuff in New Zealand with only an A6000 or Australia and New Zealand with a 50 millimeter 1.8. And that was honestly the biggest like challenge looking back on it. At the time, it just seemed like something I had to do. But then that was kind of like my digital era, you know? And then I came back and had some fun experiences with film and uncovering film. A buddy of mine, Zach, a little while ago did a video on me and why I'm shooting film in a digital era. Basically it boils down to I want to last, you know. Some of my biggest inspirations have been like Vivian Maier, honestly, I cannot say enough about how much she's inspired me. For somebody who's become so famous after death just because a few boxes of her negatives were found and like uncovered, that is the most appealing thing in the world to me. At the same time, my grandpa was a huge influence. The guy was an amazing photographer, and I didn't find out until 2 years ago. One day I got a call from my grandma and she goes, "Hey, you want to come over and check out your grandpa's photo collection?" And I'm thinking, yeah, sure. I'm sure he's got like 6 negatives of family photos, whatever. I go and there's like 7 just massive tote bins chock full of shooting everything. He was shooting fish off the Great Barrier Reef while scuba diving on old Ektachrome 100. Like, dang. It's insane. He went to Vietnam and he shot a whole bunch of stuff over there. A lot of black and white film of his buddies in Vietnam. Stack of Polaroids this thick, a guy's chilling out with PBRs on the base. You know, that's sweet.
That's a mood for sure.
Right.
I'd imagine those are sick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what would you say would be like one of the hardest times? So obviously there kind of came a point, I'm assuming, where you're just like you said, like I'm gonna make myself a better photographer, you know, I'm more serious about this now. Like
Mm-hmm.
what was some of the best and what were some of the worst times of when you kind of got serious about it?
I'm gonna start with the good stuff because that's a lot easier to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Best times of my life are when I'm, working, making money. I'm the kind of person who needs to stay moving. I can't just like chill out a little while. So
Right.
the best times of my life are when I've been working a full-time job and also shooting every day.
Yeah.
Right now I'm a manager at a bar, and I work there 50 hours a week. And every single day I pack my camera and bring it with me because you never know what's going to happen. Or I'll stop on my way home and take a photo that I end up using later on.
Right.
So I'd say the best times are just when I get to include photography as a part of my daily life, especially because that's what I'm really trying to shoot is my daily life and why I think it's valuable. For sure. That'd be my best time. But the hard times, obviously, they come in waves. I'd say the hardest time was one, realizing what the overhead cost was, because I've never been rich. I've never been able to just drop like $6,000 on an A6 I or an A7 I, and
Yeah.
and then realizing that I needed to start getting actual clients and do actual work that was going to be lucrative if I was going to really commit to it.
Right.
Once I figured that out, it was a little easier. But then, obviously that you have your honeymoon period with that, where you have 3 shoots a week and you're feeling pretty good. And then you realize, wait a minute, these people aren't going to need another shoot in a decent amount of time. So then you have to start actually networking and stuff like that. So I would say it's just it's the same problems that anybody in any sort of small business would have, is kind of working with clients and then continuing to find them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As for like my hobby photography stuff, a lot of my street photography doesn't really get as much traction as some of my digital kind of, I don't want to say overdone, but a lot of my wedding stuff ends up being kind of cliche just because every wedding photo's been taken,
Right.
I can't say that. I don't believe that. I still have grand plans to shoot a wedding on large format film, and that's something that it's been done, but you know what I mean. But a lot of my hobby stuff, it's not as rewarding as the wedding and the client stuff.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is pretty easy to get down in the dumps when a photo that I took like an hour developing in my bathroom and then scanning and tweaking and scraping dust off, it's kind of a blow to the self-esteem when that doesn't get as much as something I shot digitally without thinking about.
Yeah. So you talk about film a lot. Like, what is that process for people that don't know? Like, I honestly I don't even either. Really, like, of developing the film once you take it and stuff like that.
Yeah. So obviously you get your film in a little canister. If you're shooting medium format, it comes in a paper roll, or large format. You got sheets. I got a stack of sheet film right here. I got some Ilford HP5. I've been shooting that, a little bit of large format stuff. It's really hard to actually do that well, especially when it's cold, because it's a process where you really have to be like dialed in, or else one step could ruin a $3 sheet of film,
Right.
But whole process is you load into your camera, shoot it like normal. I've always kind of forced myself to either use an off-camera light meter or just to be able to use like Sunny 16 rule to determine how I want to expose stuff. Because obviously I don't have like a viewfinder that tells me my exposure, which is, it's a fun, cool challenge. It's not something that everybody does.
Right.
But then when you finish your roll, I'll come home, and if I have black and white film, I did color for a little while, but the color chemicals were just a little nasty to be having in my kitchen next to my food. It kind of made me nervous. So I keep my black and white color chemicals here. I drop film out or color off at sharps just because it's easier.
Yeah.
But black and white, I'll seal the cracks in my bathroom and then develop my film in there. You got to load it in complete darkness, and you got to like a 2-step bath. And then I bought a Epson V500 photo scanner from a surplus sale for $10.
There you go.
And that has probably saved me thousands of dollars in scanning.
Yeah.
Scanning costs are crazy. It's like 30 cents per scan. So I develop one roll of 36 exposures, come home and scan it myself, and I've saved, $30. So $20 maybe.
Yeah. That's sweet.
So that's been my process. And it's always fun to try to get bigger too, like
right.
Started off with 35. Then I started hand developing 120, which is like just a bigger negative. Just the other day, I developed my first large format sheet film in my bathroom. Did not turn out the way I wanted it to, but it's just like the trial and error process of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely like, I feel like you doing that is kind of like your own way of filter, you know, instead of people just, I mean, the filter like industry, as you know, like on Instagram or Visco or anywhere that these people, Lightroom, for instance, it's all photo editing, but you're kind of doing that almost with the developing process.
Right. And there's some things that I do like in my developing. I tend to develop a little bit colder because it comes out with some nice flat, a little bit of flat, a little more flat than it would if you develop hot. It's literally the difference of like 2 degrees, but it's just something that I've kind of found myself doing. I like the look of it a little better, retain a little more detail.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Definitely seems like you could be way more passionate, like you are, and like deserve to be way more passionate about every photo, you know what I mean? Because it's like where I take like when I was in Florida, we'd do like shoots with 8 people, and I'd take like, everybody needs a headshot, and in order to get that headshot you take 60 photos of the same person, then you 100 photos of the group, and you have 8 more freaking headshots to get. So it's just like tons of photos.
And now you can see why sometimes it's hard when the photos I work really hard for don't get the same traction. Like I'll share a photo with the screen for you. Or actually, if you got my Instagram, you know what? I archived it because I was so mad that it didn't get any love. It's this guy sitting in the acoustic cafe, and he has a big magnifying glass, and he's reading a newspaper with it. And it is just like the most unique, like just a random little situation. I shot it from the hip, walking past him while I was walking out of there with my girlfriend getting coffee. And it like is something that I was super passionate about in the moment. Like it was a really unique situation, actually kind of hard to shoot. I had to adjust my settings with one hand on the fly, holding a coffee with the other, and just kind of swing my hand up and shoot it. And I get like maybe 2/3 or a third of the likes that any of my random digital stuff gets. But that's how it goes sometimes.
Dang, what the heck? But that's how it goes. I mean, who knows, years down the road when you have a lot more traction and stuff with your career, you know, throw it up and be like, I just want you all to see this right now, because you guys didn't see it before.
Well, exactly. I don't shoot for like likes either. I'm not as involved with Instagram and stuff like that. I post a lot, but I'm not really like, I don't engage with it a ton. Just because, like I said, the inspiration that I draw from is this whole idea of being undiscovered, and then suddenly someday in 50 years, someone's like, holy shit, you know, Jake Olson, you know what I mean? Like, I like that idea a lot more than being famous on an app right now.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like you said, like you doing the film and stuff is for the long game kind of, and that's true, because everybody, like I said, it's just polluted. So it's kind of like, what's your little thing that you do differently, right? So that's cool that you've recognized that from a early point in your career. So
that like, and hard drives crack.
Yeah, I haven't had that.
What were you going for?
Dang, dude, that scares the crap out of me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take mine out and give it a little massage right now, just to keep it alive.
Give it a little love. There was a point where I was shooting probably like 50-50 film digital, and then one day I walked in. I had one of those the LaCie hard drives, or LaCie, I don't even know how to pronounce it. One of those orange yellow chunky ones, or orange chunky ones. Went and plugged into the computer. Whole thing was corrupted, just like that.
Oh my gosh!
Crashed, burned. That was probably like 6 months worth of digital photos at that time. And during that whole thing, I was sitting there scanning some film negatives at like 10 p.m. in the art building over at Eau Claire, because I didn't have my own scanner yet. So I'm sitting there looking at my big stack of negatives and then my crashed ass hard drive, and I'm like, I think I know where we're gonna lean from now on.
Yeah, no kidding.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
What is the future look like for you? Like how are the freelance projects and stuff you have going?
You know, right now I'm working a lot with like with the bar and restaurant industry, a lot of like client stuff like that. Really trying to build a good solid like client base there. Ends up being pretty stressful. It's it leads to a lot of you know, like distaste for photography. It's kind of hard to go and shoot burgers at work and then on my way home and really try to love shooting random stuff that I see. Or at least I spend a lot of time doing a lot of, you know, other work. So a lot of my work right now, and then I can probably foresee it happening in the future, is going to be more of these like random observances, or like really quiet, peaceful scenes. At one point I was like really craving that like adrenaline, you know, going downtown and trying to find like these crazy scenes of people doing stuff and like these really interesting things, high risk, high reward stuff.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at my Instagram for the last, I don't know, a couple of weeks here, they've really just been a lot more quiet observances.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of shooting a lot more large format, and obviously large format's going to be more landscape style stuff.
Right.
The world is kind of opening back up again, and I would like to take some trips, go out and do some really cool stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I am in the process actually of putting out a book of my first few years in Eau Claire. It's kind of not under wraps at this point, but it's still in the early stages. You know, I've got 80 or so photos that I've made over the last few years that I'm really like kind of sitting on, waiting to put out at the right time.
Right.
So that's kind of a big project right now. I'm not doing as much production right now as I am just sort of curating, you know?
Yeah.
I'm hitting client stuff pretty hard right now just because I really enjoy it, and I would love to do that sort of work for a long time. You know, I can see myself a lot of like social media work in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing though, I will never stop shooting film. That's not about to start happening.
Yeah.
Even doing client work on film is an absolute blast. You whip out so I shoot with my Leica M5 more often than anything else. And busting shoot is always an absolute blast because you tell them, hey, you're going to probably get 4 or 5 photos out of this shoot that are going to be on Portrait 160 shot on this thing or whatever. And they're more stoked about those 4 or 5 than they are any of the hundreds of digital ones I take. So.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah,
definitely. Like I said, that's so sweet that you're doing like that uniqueness and having your own niche, really. Well, yeah. What else could you say to, you know, kind of new creators entering the photography industry? You obviously have that pretty hard under your belt, so or experienced ones that are just a little bit unrecognized.
You know, all I have to say is just keep chugging. You know, like you're not going to become famous overnight. You're not going to one day wake up and I mean, maybe you will. Yeah, that's actually really possible in today's age.
No
you
kidding.
know,
No kidding.
But as far as just persistence goes, like you're going to get hit with a lot of stuff. The worst thing you can do is put a camera on a shelf and leave it there. I would like to think that my cameras never get dusty, you know? And even if it's just me walking down the block to get a coffee and taking 3 shots on the way, you never know which of those 3 is going to end up being one of your either a shot that inspires you to really keep going, or something that really connects with the community, and it's something that people really like love and appreciate. It's really easy to kind of lose some steam on it. Other than that, just like don't be afraid to do something crazy. The first time I developed film, I was actually developing a medium format film, had to spool it in my bathroom with my door sealed with t-shirts and socks, and I ruined the entire thing. Next day I came back, probably developed some of my favorite shots I've ever taken. So
yeah, it's that consistency. I think that's a big thing that's gonna come up with a lot of people that I talk to on, you know, the creative industry, is just the consistency.
Yeah,
it's like
everybody has one good shot. It's having one good shot a year for, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like you can do your YouTube videos and have the coolest video ever, but if there's only one, it's kind of like, it's nice.
Exactly.
It's a great art, but at the same time, it's a one and done type thing. So definitely keep chugging.
Yeah, keep chugging. That's exactly it. You know, keep shooting. Don't let the cameras get dusty.
Check this guy out on Instagram. I'll pull it up in the edit, and then for the listeners on Apple or Spotify, it's Jake Olson Photo, JAKEOLSON Photo. Check that man out. He's got some good wisdom for us.
I always love talking photography too. My favorite thing in the world is when people like drop into the DMs and they just say, hey, how do you do this? Or how did you make this photo happen? Or
yeah, for sure.
Feel free to ask me anything. Literally, I love talking photos and I don't get enough of it.
You heard him. Glad we did this. Glad we connected.
Yeah.
We'll stay in touch and continue our journey from here on out. So
yeah, can't wait, man. Love talking to you.
For sure. What's up, guys? Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Unrecognized podcast. Thanks again to Jake Olson for coming in and sharing his wisdom and knowledge. Check him out on Instagram. Thanks again, bro. And thank you all for listening. Peace.